and welcome to another special episode of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today I've got...
Mr. Riggs!
Mr. Riggs. Mr. Riggs is a longtime friend. I've known him for probably over half my life at this point. We probably should give the listeners, first off, a little bit of background. This is one of the other episodes in which we do have for the podcast, in which we have another guest on the show. And that's all thanks to our Patreon backers out there, in which we can have software so that a lot of these recordings, especially the ones on the go, do sound better at the very end. So huge thanks to all of our listeners and brokettes. But first off, we should let them know how I know you, how we know each other, and what we ended up doing today, which does relate to the podcast.
Yes. So I met you through a friend in high school. And I kind of knew of you, but you were just the friend of a friend. Mm-hmm. And I think it wasn't until after high school, when you were still living in the Chicago area,
right,
that's when we really just found a bromance, is what it is. We have spent many times in the clubs, dancing.
Nightclubs, yep.
Bars.
Many bars.
Parties.
So many house parties.
Yes. To people that we don't even talk to anymore.
Yeah, Riggs is a very good friend of mine, and one that anytime I've done anything with Riggs, there are stories involved. Stories for the end of time that will always be told. And because of that, he definitely had to have him on the podcast. He's actually a listener as well on top of that. So huge thanks for tuning into the show, Riggs. But also, the podcast today will be covering some Wizard World Chicago because we were able to attend this year. I'm out of town. I'm able to do the recording and kind of let listeners know how we did there and what we did. But we do want to give listeners also some background on the relationship with Riggs and I and some of the stories that we've had in the past. And you tell awesome stories. I always share them with my coworkers, but it's never the same when I'm telling the story. It's always got to come from the mouth of Mr. Riggs himself. So you have to start with, I want you to hit up your work story when you used to ride forklifts. I want you to tell your current work stories right now with whatever other non-trucks and forklifts you're using now. And of course, that alcoholic drink, the gin and juice that you kept bringing to parties.
The infamous gin and juice.
The infamous gin and juice.
Okay, so, let's start with the gin and juice.
Perfect.
So I was out with a mutual friend of ours, Tim, and this was early in my drinking days. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a drink from one of these liquor stores where they sell liquor, and that's it. And so I went and I was looking for something because I was such a fresh drinker. I didn't even know what I really liked to drink. And I found a blue liquid called gin and juice, and it's from Seagram's, in case you're wondering. And it doesn't even have a flavor. It's just blazing blue.
It was called Blastin' Blue.
Blastin' Blue. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a try. So I bought this fairly large size bottle, thinking I'm just gonna drink this all by myself in one night because I'm very silly that way. And I brought it home to Tim's, and I drank 2 sips of it and realized that this is the worst drink ever in the history of drinks. I think part of it was I was like, there's that song out there, sipping on gin and juice, laid back with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. And I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna be cool. But it is not cool.
Bust into parties with gin and juice, Blastin' Blue flavor. Imagine that in your head. That's what was going on in your head. I was the life of the party.
Well, what turned out is that instead of being the life of the party, because I bought this thing and it was expensive and I was trying to get rid of it. So I would just go to random parties, and that's bring your own, bring BYOB. And so I would just sneak it onto the table with all the other drinks and then just steal whatever vodka was there, because that's my drink, is vodka. And so it would just be there, and people were like, who brought this? I'm like, I don't know. You should try it. Drink it. See how you like it. And, of course, nobody liked it. I remember I'm going to have to tell the story.
Yeah, you've got it.
I have to. I remember one time I was throwing this house party, and I'll never forget because Sandoval was in town. It was a Tuesday, and we're like, let's throw a party. And we're like, well, we don't know how many people are going to show up. Everybody showed up. All the people showed up. And so I had this huge party, and I'm like, well, now I'm at a party, and I can just throw it out there and see if people are going to drink it. So it's getting, like, well into the party at this point. And
people are getting drunk.
People are getting drunk. We're playing beer pong. And this girl wanted to try something other than beer, I believe it was. And I was like, oh, you should try this just to see if you like it. You never know. And she drank it. And I think she liked it. I think that was the thing, is that she did like it.
Yeah, and she pointed at it, and she's like, gin and juice, like the song. And you're like, exactly. Like the song.
It didn't take very long for the gin and juice to have its effect on her. She, I don't know how to put this delicately, but threw up. Massive amount. She ran, because it was in my garage. She felt so sick that she ran out of the garage and up she didn't even throw up in my yard. She threw up in my neighbor's yard. In between heaves of throw up coming out of her mouth. We're like, are you okay? She's like, it's the gin and juice. Just, there's no question in her mind.
No, the exact words where you turn to me and you're like, I bet you it was that gin and juice. And she goes, it was the freaking gin and... She didn't even finish her sentence. Like, she knew exactly what it was. That goddamn gin and juice. The problem was that you're supposed to refrigerate after opening. And you had that under your bed for years. And you just kept bringing that out at parties and slowly getting rid of more and more of it.
Well, if not under my bed, then in the trunk of my car where the heat can really get to it.
I'm sure that's great for the ingredients. I'm sure that's great for the liquor.
Yeah. So that's what it was. That is the infamous gin and juice. I never knew what happened to it. I got most of it gone just by pawning it off on people, and then one day it just disappeared. Hopefully to find a better home somewhere to make ruckus on another guy, and another family is gonna lose themselves to this. It's the fucking gin and
just pawning off poison at this point. It's gone. It's out of here. You feel now that you got your money's worth.
Yeah,
because people drink it.
Yeah,
I remember this was the same party we had where we went to Walgreens and you found the beer. It was what is it, like a quarter beer, 50-cent beer?
It was 50 cents beer. It was Big Flats.
Big Flats was, we had how much did you end up buying? 7 6-packs of those things.
Not even. It's 50 cents, and I bought $60 worth because I was it's gonna be beer pong. Nobody's gonna fucking know the difference. It tastes like Bud Light, except for it doesn't taste like Bud Light. But I was like, I'll just tell them it's Bud Light. They won't know the difference, but they fucking knew the difference.
They did. They were digging around the cooler,
they were
pushing those aside for the real beer. And I remember the plan was you kept those beers at the top. You're like, those will go first, and all the good stuff will go
was the
second.
Plan.
And instead, people were just like, fuck this. After they tried one, they dug through, and you were left with so many cans of Big Flats that at the end of it, I remember Clayton said, well, if anything, you could water your fucking grass with it because it might as well have been water. That's how tasteless that stuff was.
I think my mom borrowed a can of it to make beer bread, but again, I don't know what happened to all of that. I think I just gave it out to the homeless or something. I don't know.
Kept pawning it off.
Yeah, I kept pawning it off. That's what I do, is I buy shit for myself, and then when it's really shitty, I just trick other people into drinking it.
The runners by your house, you just throw them a can of Big Flats. Is this beer? It might as well be water. It's fine. You see them splashing that all over their heads. He's right. It's pretty much water. There's no alcohol in this. But work. So you used to work at the airport.
Yes, at OHare.
OHare Airport, and that's one of the biggest airports in the country.
It is.
And it's actually the one I use to fly in and fly out most of the time when I do come and visit. And you used to, what exactly did you do at OHare?
So I worked overnight. So my shift started from 10 at 10 p.m. and went to 7 a.m. And while I was there, I was in charge of unloading. I want to make this clear. I wasn't handling people's luggage. I was handling stuff that when you take a flight, you don't know, but there is other stuff underneath the plane. So I had to handle like all the fish, just fish or flowers.
So cargo. A bunch of cargo.
Cargo, yes, cargo. I remember one time I had the Foo Fighters. I had all their stuff. And
shit. The Foo Fighters.
The Foo Fighters.
Holy crap. They trusted Riggs. The Foo Fighters trusted Riggs with their stuff. I can't wait to see what happens here.
And so all their stuff is like on wheels. And so I'm just like, well, why push it gently into the spot that it's supposed to go? I'll just shove it. And it just wheels over there. But because it's like shitty wheels, it doesn't go straight. So it starts to spin and just goes off to the side. Hits the shelf rack and then I was just, because I played the guitar, I was just like, oh, I'm just going to open up the suitcase full of stuff and see what's in there. And I was impressed. They had all the picks, and I'm just like, well, there's too many picks for them to keep track of. So I might as well just not steal, but borrow one and then forget to give back.
So you have one of the Foo Fighters picks.
I do. I have one of the Foo Fighters picks.
That is incredible. I've never heard that story. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So did they have it super well packed, like all their instruments? They didn't take it with them. Like they put them up in cargo?
They put it up in cargo, and then I don't know if they flew it out ahead of time just because it was so much stuff or what, but it sat in our warehouse, and then we had to get rid of it. But yeah, it had like the Foo Fighters logo on all of the suitcases, like expensive suitcases with just shitty wheels. and yeah, like it was cool because like if you play the guitar, then you just know that there are different kinds of picks. Each pick has different thickness to it, and so what they did is they like bought one pick and like bought a mass amount of it and just had them in these big bags. And so it was the same colors, the same thickness, it was the same pick. And then there was another bag that had different thick size picks. That way, you know, it wasn't just like one special pick that they had to keep with them as they were touring. They could just like, and I've always had this fantasy of I'm playing my guitar and I just throw my pick out into the audience and the girls are just like, yes, I have this. And they put it in their mouth and they're like, oh, it tastes like him. But yeah, so they have all this stuff, and I was like just looking at their instruments. I didn't play the guitar because it was like, for some reason, it was just like inaccessible, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna get, like, if they find out, I'm gonna get like way fired.
Yeah, that would be a different story if you actually played the Foo Fighters guitar, like, and that's how I lost my job.
Yeah, that's how I lost my job.
Do you still have that pick, the Foo Fighters pick?
I do. It's in my collection of picks.
Okay.
So I could find it at some point.
Yeah, I want you to find it so I can take a picture of it and put it up so listeners can see it when the episode goes up and they're like, that's the pick that he fucking took from the Foo Fighters.
I can do that.
Yes, can't wait. So you used to, what else? You were about to say something.
Well, a lot of what we did was put stuff on skids, or we call them skids. You may call them pallets. In the industry, a pallet would be the size of like 6 skids. So if you have any kind of idea, it's these wooden, skids that you would put cargo on, and we had to use a forklift to pick up the skids and put them into designated slots. The warehouse was big, but it wasn't so big. But like, if we wanted to go from one end of the warehouse, we would just jump on the forklifts and go.
So this was out of laziness.
It was. Like, I remember specifically, like, we had to take care of the garbage, and there was, like, this saran wrap that is supposed to keep all the cargo in place, and we had to cut through it, and there was this small strip of saran wrap that was on the ground, and I could have very easily gotten out of the forklift to pick it up and put it in the trash can, but I'm like, no, so I'm like anchoring the blades down so it goes underneath the saran wrap and try to pick it up, and it fell off, so now I've got to go and readjust and pick up the blade, and I finally got it to balance on the blade of the forklift and then drove over to the trash can and then wiggled the blades up and down so it would fall off.
So this took you 3 times the amount of time that it normally would have been.
Yeah,
if you had just gotten up and thrown the fucking thing away.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Was anyone looking? Like,
oh yeah, everybody. They're just like, that's normal. Like they're like I will never forget, because they're like, I went to go pick it up. I actually got out of the forklift to pick it up. And one of the guys there were like, why don't you just use the forklift? And it dawned on me. I was like, that's an ingenious. Why didn't I think of that? So he taught me how to put the forklift on her. But it was their idea. It wasn't even my idea. They got me to do it.
What else would you do with the forklifts, aside from what they're supposed to be used for?
Okay, so I know where you're going with this. I worked overnights. And sometimes I would need to be up during the day, which means that I would be sleepy at work. So sometimes I would take naps in the forklift. And if you want, I still have a picture of that.
Of you taking a nap in the forklift?
A guy took a picture of me. He just took a picture and he sent it to me. I wasn't in trouble or anything. He just took a picture and sent it to me.
Yes, I want that too.
Yeah, done.
Yes.
So I would take naps, and I got very good at it too. Because we did have like one boss who would like drive around on his. He wouldn't even walk around. He would just drive around on his forklift to check.
Was it an executive forklift? Did it have his name plaqued on the side?
No, there was one that was like that because it had mirrors. Because all forklifts generally don't have mirrors, but this one had mirrors, and I always took that one. So I would like aim it away, because if he saw us napping, he would be like, get back to work.
Not even, I'm going to write you up for napping in a fucking forklift. It's, hey guys, come on.
No.
Just get back to work. Like it's a normal thing.
Come on, guys. You can't be doing that.
I know it's comfortable. Trust me, I know. His has extra padding in his executive forklift.
His forklift is like George Costanza's desk, where it comes with like an alarm clock and a pillow and a blanket. That's his forklift. So yeah, no, I angled it so that if he came around, I could like peek through the slits of my eyes and just see through the mirror. Oh, he's coming, and just like start it up and leave.
He's like, every time I come around, all these forklifts just start up and start moving.
Yeah, I would honk my horn. That was the signal. Is 2 beeps, beep beep, and then everybody would just drive away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So everyone knew.
Everyone knew. Oh yeah. My mom, she's like, if you get caught napping at work, if somebody like walks up to you and like touches you and like, hey, wake up. Just wake up and be like, amen, and just pretend you were praying the whole time.
That's smart. I never would think about. Yeah, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's useful. Although it wouldn't work for me. People know I would never say that. You also used to skid and race with the forklifts, like if it was raining, especially.
If it was raining, because the tires on those things were bald.
Of course they are.
So you would just like race, and you would like hit it, and it has a chip inside of it, so you can't go like too fast, but you can go like 20 miles an hour, which is still pretty fast for a forklift.
Yeah. And
so you just hit the brakes all of a sudden, turn the wheel, and you would just skid sideways down. I remember one time I didn't do it right, and I rammed the forklift, the blade, right into like this other machinery, and the forklift blade bent upwards. And so I had to explain it to my boss. I was just like, I don't know, I slipped on water.
So forever? Could they reuse that? Or was
No,
it done?
oh no, it was done. So they had to replace the blade on it.
Were you the only one that was skidding and racing these things?
Oh no, like that's the whole point, is we would like race. Because it was a fairly big warehouse. Like from one end to the other, it was pretty short to where we didn't really need to get off of our forklifts to walk. But like from the other end, the long end, that was pretty long, and it was nighttime, and sometimes we just didn't have shit to do, so we just put it into drive, hit the gas, and
OHare Airport, professional, one of the best airports in the world.
Yeah,
skidding rigs, bending forklift forks. That's incredible.
I have one more story that involved the forklift. Is I was in the forklift, and I was actually working this time, and and so forklifts. I don't know if you've ever seen a forklift. These are forklifts. and they're generally the same size all around. But we also had one forklift that this thing was industrial size. Like this thing could easily like lift up like a semi truck without even blinking.
Mm-hmm.
And we used this to stack the big metal pallets together. And so I was on it, and this thing was huge. And the thing is that what we had to do. Okay, this sounds wrong, but it's not. What we had to do was we had to like stack them, and then to make sure that they were so like even, like perfect, we had to bang them up against one of the poles. So we would bang it on the left side, bam, and then back up, and then bang it on the right side, and then back up, and then bang it in the middle. And then we would put it down. We'd go in on the other side, lift it up, and do the same thing, and just bang it into like support beams is what they were.
Jesus Christ. Support beams for the building?
Support beams for the building.
So these aren't even beams that are made to do this shit?
No.
Do those even exist?
No. We were just like, well, this is one way we could do it, so let's just do it that way. We didn't check with anybody. No supervisors were involved. We're just like, this is the way we're doing it now.
You can take down the building doing this. Like one extra bang too hard, and the whole fucking thing collapses.
Well, I was on this big, expensive, industrial size forklift, and it was hard to maneuver, and I backed up into it, and I was just going too fast, and I backed up into another support beam. Smoke started coming out of it, and you could like hear liquid dripping out of it. And I just like I took off my seatbelt and I jumped out of it, and I was just like panicking. And I ran up to my boss, and I was like, "This just happened." And he's just like, he just gave me that look like, "Oh my god, Mr. Riggs has done it again." Is the look on his face. I don't know if this was involved. I don't know if this has anything to do with it. But shortly after, I wasn't let go. I was laid off because the company lost its contract with United, and I was one of the first to let go. I don't think it really had something to do. I think it had to do with the fact that I was there for 7 months, and everybody else had been there for years.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so I didn't really get. The point though is that I didn't get any consequences for that. It's just because I was just let go.
Is that the same place you were at that you kept riding people's asses if you had a bad day? Like that one guy that was equal to you?
Cash?
Yes, Cash. I didn't want to say his name because I don't know if he's not going to listen to this, but was that place or was that somewhere else?
No, that was the same place.
Same place.
Yeah. See, and I remember his name. Like everybody else's name there, I don't remember, but him, yeah, I remember him.
So what's going on with Cash? The listeners don't know who Cash is.
Cash was this guy, and he was, I believe, Pakistani. And first of all, let me say right away, good for him. You know, nothing against that. But the thing is that there are some certain, people in America kind of look down, I want to say, on just the whole Middle Eastern world since 9/11.
Okay.
And it's not right, and I disagree with it. But at the same time, it's a fact. It should be changed, but it's a fact. So he's going over his papers with me, and he's like, "I have a paper from the Pakistan," because he wants to be a full citizen. Mm-hmm. Good for him,
Sure.
Join the team. And he's like, I have a letter from the Pakistani government that says this man is not a terrorist. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. You can't do that, because they're gonna be like, that's a red flag right there. They're gonna be like, why does the Pakistani government I have a not a terrorist list that he's on? It just didn't look right. And I was like, you need to get rid of this. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure you have to get rid of this. But he just seemed simple-minded and stuff like that. Like, he works in a warehouse, but he's allergic to dust. So he always had to wear a mask. Not a gas mask, but just one of those masks that
like the white ones?
The white ones, yeah. He would just push a broom and just push it really slowly, and that's all they were like, where's Cash fucking pushing a broom?
That was just the thing.
That was
when you knew he's fucking pushing a broom, so he's not doing dick squat.
Exactly. We're all using our man muscles, and he's just fucking pushing a broom. He would tell us, because it wasn't computerized. The warehouse I work in now is computerized, so it says everything that's in a specific spot. But it wasn't computerized. He had to use it for paper. He would tell us to put this in bay 72. So we would go to bay 72, and they're all the way be other shit in Bay 72, and we're like, we can't put it in 72. No, put it in 72. No, there's other shit in there. No, it says on my list that there's nothing there. Cash, there's fucking shit over there. Knock it the fuck off. Look, you can look with your eyes. From here, you can see it. And he's just like, oh. Well, then put it next to it. Fine. And he was always chasing me out of the office because he wasn't a lead, but he was like a lead in training, so he was allowed in the office. But I wasn't allowed in the office because I was a lowly warehouse worker. But there were some pretty ladies in the office. And it was air conditioned. It was summer. I was like, yeah, air conditioning. So I went into the office to flirt with the Bosnian chicks. Mm-hmm. And he would always chase me out. You can't be in here. And I'm like, what are you going to do? You can't do shit to me.
He was jealous. He was mad. You were moving in on what he couldn't get.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So on your bad days, you would ride his ass, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it got worse. If I was tired or if I was in a bad mood, then he was my go-to guy to yell at.
He was above you, but you would yell at him.
Yeah, he was above me, but I would like treat him like I was above him.
Cash! Fucking Cash! And there were some times I'm sure you were wrong, but you'd still yell at him.
Yeah, fucking Cash, get back to work. Cash, what are you working on right now? Stuff like that.
That's amazing. So they let you go to this place, out of this place, OHare. You can no longer skid row and race fucking forklifts or give shit to Cash. Are there any current work stories that are pretty good? And you don't have to name where you work, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name where I work. I will say that it is a warehouse because
of course it is.
Of course it is. And I'm going to change some names, but not really because who cares? I no longer work on forklifts, and that's only because forklifts aren't useful in this particular warehouse. Mm-hmm. What we use what we call cherry pickers. I don't know if they're technically cherry pickers, but that's just what we call them. And the kind of equipment that we really just call them trucks. And what it is if you've seen a forklift where it brings up the freight and then you just drop it off, a cherry picker or what we use, the equipments that we use, is where we go up with it. Mm-hmm. And so like these things are twice the size of a car. Like the thing alone is the size of a car.
I think I've seen them. I've seen them in those videos where someone fucks up an entire warehouse by like bumping one of those into the entire casing of them.
Yes.
And just knocks them like a domino effect. And it's just like that you might as well bulldoze that fucking warehouse because there's no way this is going to be ever cleaned up.
Yes. And it's important that you know that they weigh the size of a car, and then the battery, which is supposed to like keep it balanced while you're up in the air, as I call it, while you're flying, is that weighs the size of a car too. So I mean, this thing is twice the weight of a car, and so I'm driving on it, and I'm going down this aisle. Now, most aisles are big enough to hold two trucks, but this particular aisle it's very narrow. It's only one truck can go down. No truck can go in between. I'm stopped perpendicular to it.
Okay.
And I want to make a left-hand turn into it. And the way to do that is to just be very perpendicular, turn the wheel all the way to the left, and then add the gas so that I can rotate and then go into it. My boss stops me. He's not my boss anymore. But my boss stops me, and he wants to talk to me about whatever it was he wants to talk to me about. While he's there, Tom is there. Tom still works there, so I will tell him about your podcast in a couple of weeks so that he doesn't listen to this episode. And he's right there, and I start to go, and there's this delay. I start to make the turn, but there's always this delay. So you add the gas, and it just takes a minute. It goes, and then it will go. And so he comes down the aisle that I want to turn to so that he can talk to my boss. And I'm finishing up with my boss, and I go to make the turn, and right when I make the turn, his fat ass just tries to squeeze in. So I add the gas. There's that delay where he goes to squeeze in. Oh, excuse me. and right then I just barely miss him. I could have easily crushed him.
Jesus. Jesus Christ.
And so in front of my boss, I yell at him. I'm like, Tom, the fuck are you doing? You can't do that. You have to alert me when you're around me. I need to know because I can't fucking see you. Because that's another thing is that these things have these huge blind spots. And so I was just like, you can't just do that. I really reamed at him in front of my boss. And my boss was just like, well, I guess we need to work on safety protocol and, that jazz.
Someone almost died. Some communication.
Yeah, communication, yeah. Someone almost died. And he's like, yeah, we'll have to bring this up in the next meeting. Pim, by the way, like, whenever somebody was, like, in trouble, he would, like, announce it at the meeting, and he would always be very vague as to who it was. He's like, well, somebody here, needs to work on their safety. There was an incident with a truck. But he would always stare directly at the person. So he was staring at me at this meeting, and he's like, we need to work on safety, blah, blah, blah. But he's staring at me, and so he goes, somebody, messed up. And I just raised my hand. I'm like, it was me. He's staring at me, so it was me. And everybody starts laughing like it's one big joke.
And he's like, Riggs.
So you wanted to know, I think I should tell the story of my little driving incident of how I wrecked my car.
Wrecked your car? Like your old one or this one here?
No, this one, how the taillight went out.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I do want to know. You have a history of driving incidents, but is this your most recent one?
This is my most recent one.
Perfect.
I was at work. I was on my lunch break, which is only half an hour. And it used to be 45 minutes, but they shortened it. So I'm in a hurry. I kind of look in the parking lot. Oh, I don't see any cars. So I'm like, okay. So I get into my car. I light a cigarette. Don't smoke. I light a cigarette, and I back out. Don't even fucking look. I admit it. I just didn't even bother checking the mirrors. I didn't look at all. And there are guys out on the outside, and they're like, hey! And I hit the brakes, but it was too late. And what happened is that one of the guys was out, and his girlfriend had brought him some Popeyes. And so he was just talking with her. I almost hit him. I almost crushed him. He had to jump out of the way.
In between his girlfriend's car and your car.
And my car, yes.
He was sitting there with the Popeyes.
He was but not for very long, because as he jumped out, his Popeyes just went flying. Chicken was everywhere. It was a massacre.
The great Popeye spill of 2016.
So I'm like, are you okay, Mario? Like, I'm like trying like really hard to
coddle him and
like I want to make sure that I'm not about to get fired and he's okay. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm okay. I'm like, let me buy you lunch. He's like, no, I'm okay. And so I was like, all right, can your girlfriend move though? Because I have to get to lunch. He's like, yeah. And he told her to move, and she moved. And she's like, she's more interested in her car. She's like, is my car dented? And he's like, I'm okay. Thanks for asking. Like I was asking if he was okay. Mm-hmm. The girlfriend wasn't even asking if he was okay. So I left. I just left. I was just like,
went to lunch.
I had to go to lunch. I have a finite time here. I had to get to lunch, eat, come back. And when I come back, my boss is outside, a new boss. He's outside, and he's just waiting for me. And I knew that he was waiting for me. He's like, I need you to go clock in from lunch, and then I need you to come out here and talk to me. So we talked about it. And I had to get drug tested. We both did. And that's the thing, is why did he have to get drug tested? But apparently he had to get drug tested too, because it was a work-related incident. It happened on company property. I passed. In case you're wondering, in case you're hearing these stories and you're like, I bet he didn't pass. Yes, I passed. And then I went on vacation, and I came back, and I had to do the drug test again.
Why?
Because my company does randoms. And it's not like they show you to the bathroom and you go. They shave you.
What do you mean they shave you?
So, like, they're just like... They just, like, scrape hair off of you. And
From where? Your eyebrows?
No, I requested my leg. And there's another thing, is I was clearly the one at fault. And I was the one that was in trouble. And I asked, I said, can you do it on my leg? Because I'm not vain, but I'm, like, just vain enough where I don't want, like, this big bald spot on my head.
Yeah.
And they're like, They're like, yeah, so they do my leg. And for cosplaying purposes, I have shaved my legs in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like doing my leg, and all of a sudden just whoosh, she got a patch on my skin.
Oh, God.
Like, I can show you. You can see the scar.
It's still there,
It's still there. She just got a big chunk of my skin. And I was like, geez. And I was bleeding. And I was bleeding so much that she put a Band-Aid on it, and it just bleed right through the Band-Aid.
The Band-Aid just got immediately soaked?
Immediately soaked. So she, like, does the rest of my leg in a different area. And I'm like, do you want me to do this? I'm a professional.
I've shaved my legs.
I've shaved my legs. But then I went on vacation, and then I came back, and I got hit with a random. Like, me and this other girl, she got hit with a random too. And I've been there 4 years now. And this was the first time I've heard of anybody in our warehouse, throughout the company, in our warehouse, get randomized. But we both got randomized. And so I was just like, can you do the leg? And she's like, yeah. But the thing is that Mario, the guy that I hit, who is clearly not in the wrong, he was the victim here. He goes, can you shave my leg? And they're like, no, it has to be on the head. So then he had this big bald spot. Now he's the type of person that can pull off keeping his hair short. That weekend he went and got a haircut and he looks good. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't that big of a deal. But he still just had this big spot for a minute, and he was the victim.
Yeah, poor guy. Poor guy. You almost kill him by crushing him between two cars.
Yeah,
and he ends up even worse at the very end of the day.
Yeah, but it was cool. Like I almost hit him with my car. We go get drug tested. We come back, and he doesn't have a car. And so by the time we got back, there was nobody left in the warehouse. It was just our boss waiting for us because we got paid for it, so we just had to clock out. He's just like, I don't know how I'm going to get home. I'm like, I can give you a ride. So I gave him a ride home. But that actually just shows the kind of attitude that he had. He has no ill wishes towards me. Like, we're very cool at work. Mm-hmm. I bought him lunch the next day.
Was it Popeyes?
It was not Popeyes. It was chicken from my very favorite restaurant, which I'm not going to name. It was from my all-time favorite restaurant that we'll just call Harley's.
Close enough.
Close enough. But then I turned him on to that restaurant, and so now he goes there sometime.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you took me to that same restaurant, and it's like a little, like, mom and pop locally owned restaurant. And
yeah.
It was really good. Like, you can tell the fucking owner really tries. Like, he was in there. I think he's Greek. Is he Greek?
He's Greek.
Yeah, he's like, you can see all the workers are constantly cleaning and doing shit. I'm like, holy shit, like, this guy has his routine down. And that's kind of what you get with some of these locally owned shops and restaurants is they usually are on top of things.
Yeah, he commissioned an artist to come in. I don't know if you noticed, but there was artwork on the walls.
Yeah.
And he commissioned somebody to do that, to just paint whatever. And so they did. And so I'll have to take you back before you leave because there's some stuff in there that is just very cool to look at. And I can introduce you to my favorite coworker that works there.
Looking forward to it. You've been talking about her for quite a bit now.
Yes.
So that is story time with Mr. Riggs. Just a taste of what I've gotten for years. Like, that I've gotten for years. Just these stories. I mean, as hard as I'm laughing, like my face was just tears. I was laughing so hard just a few minutes ago. It is
He's
gold.
red.
I love it. Yeah, and I'm brown. Like, we don't turn red, and I'm red. Like, I turned red just from laughing so hard. But some broquettes, now this is like the last half of the episode. Wizard World, Chicago. We actually got to go to Wizard World.
Yeah.
And we only did the Friday pass because I'm not here all weekend. And I think, what was the weekend, $105?
Yeah, it was $105 for the whole weekend. It was $60 to go, which initially I thought, this is expensive. But they had 2 dealers' room plus the upstairs. And so you really got your money's worth. And if you're anything like me, you spent more in the dealer's room than you did to get in. And so it was definitely worth the price to get in. One
of the things, we went in there, we got our tickets, we got our wristbands, and we immediately went in. I guess we sort of had a plan of what we were looking for. Like, I definitely wanted to commission an artist on the All-Star Batman #1 blank cover. And unfortunately, Aunt Lucia, who was immediately like my first choice, was not available. And if any listeners don't know who Aunt Lucia is, now, we've talked about him before. He does the covers for the DC Comics Bombshells. He did a lot of those designs. the cover I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, of Harley Quinn riding a missile.
Yes.
Like that's from the DC Bombshells line. And he was already booked up for the day, and it's one of those guys that you just have to catch super early, or email him ahead of time and say, hey, here's half, put me down for a spot, I'm going to be in at this time. But it was already hard enough for me because I'm only there for one day, and then I'm going back to Florida. So these artists either have to finish that commission that same day and kind of bump everyone down, and some do. Like some of them are like, okay, this person's here all weekend, so I can work on this Saturday night. But this guy's only here today, so I'm going to work on this one today, and they can pick that up. After a few misses, we kind of went through Artist Alley. Your goal for the day was to actually support independent creators.
Yes. You might be able to get a good deal on DC or Marvel comics at Wizard World, but I understand that artists go there so that they can showcase their art and they can showcase their work, and so that was my goal. And I picked up 4 books from 3 different artists. Each one of them, like, you could tell it meant a lot, especially the first guy that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
It really meant a lot to him that I came up and bought his book.
Give him a plug. Like, you got the book right there.
Yeah, so it's called Fear My Dear, and it's by Dean Haspiel. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, I think that's right. Haspiel.
Haspiel. I've bought comics from other dealers, and they'll like draw you this picture and then just a quick thing. This guy went all out. He did the pencil first, and then he did it like with ink and stuff, and he even let me take a picture with him, and that will go up. And
yeah, it just went up. Yeah, it's up on Twitter.
But yeah, no, I was just talking with this guy, and he's very cool, and I'm glad that I could support him. And it worked out really well because I didn't think to bring cash, but I did have a 20 in my pocket, and that's how much it cost, which I think was very cheap for what it is.
Yeah, this is like a hardcover book. I want to say there's probably like a 50-page hardcover book. And normally a lot of these hardcovers, especially from independent creators, it does cost them more to print out stuff like this. And that is a premium hardcover. Like, that is a nice looking book. And he is a tremendous artist. If we were just both looking at the inside of it, it's very Darwin Cookish.
Yes.
Is what I was reminded of. And then the drawing that he did inside is phenomenal, which he included as a part of the purchase. And I think most artists will just do you like a quick head sketch. Yep. He actually inked the thing.
Yeah, and it's large too. It takes up like the whole book.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it as well and post it up eventually. But yeah, that is a nice buy. That was probably my favorite pickup that you did.
Yeah, and it's my favorite pickup too. And so it worked out because it was $20 and I had a 20 on me, and so it was just like wham bam done. It was as if it was meant to be.
Exactly. My second artist, I went to, I forgot her name. It was like Carmen something. And I was going through her work, and she had done a really nice Catwoman in the past, and all of her pages are phenomenal, her penciled pages. So we talked to them. And
she was working on a Catwoman as we were there.
Yeah, she was inking it right when we were coming up. So I was like, hey, look, can you do this commission? I'm only here today, though. I know it's a little late. So that must have been her manager, or they were related in some way.
Yes.
But it was also her handler of the cash, of the appointments, and all of that. So he's going through the list, and she's talking to him, and they were speaking Spanish. So they probably didn't know that I spoke Spanish too. But he was telling her, like, look, can you do this one real quick? It's on this sketch cover, and she's like, no, I've got these 4 or 5 others that I have to finish. And he's like, look, it's just a pencil. You can just do the pencil. I mean, this one's real quick. This is just a pencil on your list. This other one right here is an ink. You can do that one later. They're going to be here tomorrow. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. He was more like, push out the ones that are due today, finish those, and then you can work on the other ones later. She kept fighting him on it. So I was like, oh, we're probably not going to get it. And eventually he's like, they're talking back and forth again. And she's like, okay, fine. And he's like, yeah, we can do it. We can go ahead and do it. I was like, all right, awesome. So, here's the comic that I want. Do a Catwoman bust on it, pencils only, and cool. So he's put me down on the list, and he's like, it'll be done in a few hours. If you're here at the end of the show, cool. And this was probably like a 4-hour period at that point, because this was probably halfway through the con that we were there.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, so it's $75. And I'm like, I pull out my credit card, and he's like, no, it's cash only. And that was something we ran into throughout the convention, was just cash only. Because I guess the same author that you were talking about, Dean Haspiel, said that it cost him more if he were to try to take cards at the convention.
Because I believe what it is that, and I don't blame them at all. I blame the convention center.
Yeah.
Is what they do is they charge for their Wi-Fi. And that's not right, because they want to bring in these dealers, and the dealers want to be there, and I want to be there because the dealers are there. Mm-hmm. And so it just makes more financial sense to just provide them with Wi-Fi, because it costs them nothing to do so. And then also, because they're going through PayPal, it also costs them a little to do with that.
Right, there's a fee with PayPal. And on top of that, the Wi-Fi was shitty. That's what I kept hearing from some of the artists, or from the vendors, is the Wi-Fi here sucks. Like, they kept trying to run my card in one of the booths, and it just wouldn't go through. And he's just like, the Wi-Fi is not going through. And he tried to use the 4G on his iPad or whatever it was, and it wouldn't go through there either, because you're at a convention center, and you just can't get signal. So it was kind of a mess on Wizard World's part, unfortunately, as far as the vendors, because a lot of them just refused to pay for the Wi-Fi, and unfortunately that would cost the vendors money on top of that, because people like me, that could have been $75 for Carmen.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I did have to. I eventually found an artist. It was Philip Moyes is his name. He's worked for DC Comics, and that's actually one of the artists that you bought stuff from. Yeah,
I bought two of his because I liked the artwork that was on the cover of it, and he was doing a really good deal. He said, I said, how much are these two? And he goes, well, one's $5 because it's older. I did it a long time ago. Yeah, and then volume 2 is $15, and I was like, 2 for $20. You can't beat that.
And he took card.
And he took the card. And that was also helpful on my part. Mm-hmm. And so I got 2 from him, and I'm very pleased with my choice.
Philip Moyes, yeah, it's not what you expected.
No, it wasn't.
It's it is hentai.
Let's call it what it is.
I mean, it says adults only on the very front, but the guy is fucking awesome though. I was going through his artwork, and I had no idea that's what you had. I didn't know what that was. I thought like adult only. There was going to be like some nudity sketches in the back, like character designs, that kind of thing.
I thought adult theme, so I thought language. I thought grotesque violence. I thought some nudity, but still not the amount that's in this. I was expecting a comic, and this was just pure hentai.
It's porn, yeah, basically. But the rest of Philip Moyes' work was awesome, and that's what I was going through. It wasn't until we got home that we got through these nostalgia books, and we're like, oh, that's what you bought.
Yeah.
But he does a really excellent Bruce Timm themed artwork. He does his own style as well that he had on there. And I think what got me to say, you know what, this is going to be the artist that I'm going to try next on these artists, or on this blank cover, was he did this phenomenal Hawk Girl that was, again, based on Bruce Timm's design.
Amazing.
Beautiful work, and that's something that I've already posted as well, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I said, hey, I've got this All-Star Batman cover. I want Roxy Rocket on it. And he's like, I love Roxy Rocket. And for any of the listeners that don't know who Roxy is, she was in Batman the Animated Series Season 4, kind of a one-off character. They used her in the comics since then in the animated series adaptation, and also in the DC Comics before the New 52. Just kind of another Paul Dini, Bruce Timm character like Harley Quinn that they created that didn't really take off. But she's a stunt woman in the DC universe, and in the cartoon, I'm going to show it to you later. We're going to watch it, but she gets off on danger. Like, if she's about to die, she actually climaxes, and it's in the episode itself. Like, you see it happen.
I'm not sure I believe you.
We're going to watch it.
But we're going to watch it.
Even the artist said, like, she climaxes right when they're about to die. And I'm like, I know. How'd they get away with this? Like, they definitely slipped through that. And even Bruce Timm on his interview with Kevin Smith on Fat Man on Batman, he's like, I don't know how we got away with that. I still don't know how we got away with that. But that's Roxy Rocket. It's just, she gets off on the excitement of being a stunt woman and the thrills and the danger. And that's a very underutilized character, another fun character from the Bruce Timm and Paul Dini camp. So I was like, you know what? I don't have any custom Roxy Rocket artwork. So yeah, go ahead and do a Roxy Rocket. I like the one he did. He did a print which has Batman, it has him surrounded by Poison Ivy, Roxy Rocket, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. And they're all over him, and he's just smiling.
Yes.
And in the background is Batgirl real upset with her arms crossed, which goes back to that Bruce Timm thing of Batgirl being with Bruce Wayne in the animated series.
Yes.
That people missed, I guess, in the Killing Joke and freaked out about. So that was in there, and I'm like, hey, can you do this commission? And he says, well, I can't finish it today, maybe not even this weekend, because I'm still catching up on some stuff from San Diego Comic-Con. And I'm like, well, that works out because I fly out anyway. And he's like, yeah, I'll ship it to you for free, no problem. So he's going to do a color version of Roxy Rocket on the cover. And now I understand why he asked, but he's like, do you want me to do it sexy? And I'm like, oh, no, just, like action-y. And I'm like looking at these, I'm like, I'm glad I said no, because I don't know what he would have drawn.
We can only guess.
So yeah, that's who I ended up going with, Philip Moy, for my blank cover. And he's actually a local right here to Illinois.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So I don't know if he ever travels to MegaCon. Obviously, he's been to San Diego Comic-Con, but I feel like he wouldn't have gone to MegaCon down in Florida. Maybe I never would have met the guy. But you also got a third book. No, I'm sorry. I guess that counts as a fourth book, but from a third artist.
Yeah.
A third creator.
And so this one, I actually don't know much about it. It's called The Sires of Time by J.M. Dragonos.
Probably his real name, right?
Probably. It's very medieval-y. The reason why I got it is because it says The Sires of Time, and I like anything that has to do with time or alternate universes, stuff like that. I wouldn't go as far as to say as that I'm big on medieval stuff, but I do like time stuff, and I do know another comic book reader who is a listener of the show, Diamond. She loves medieval stuff. We went to the Ren Fair, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to show it to her and see how she likes it. Mm-hmm. I, of course, will read it, and then, we can share in that together.
It's a gorgeous book. It is a beautiful book.
It's unbelievably detailed.
Yeah, it is. It is awesome. I guess the best way I can describe it is it's all black and white, or kind of like black and map color, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So there are some colors, but it's this dimmed down, burnt red. Kind
of like Dante's Inferno is what that reminds me a lot of. Like the artwork that they always put in the book itself to better illustrate it. Like, there you go, yeah. I mean, it's also sort of like the Labyrinth book, like the adaptation to that. Like, that reminds me a lot of that, too. It is a really nice book. And what was the author's name again? So they can look it up.
It is J.M. Dragonos.
Dragonos.
Dragonos. And what I like about this, so Fear My Dear is the story is contained in that one book. Mm-hmm. Nostalgia. If I wanted to, I'm sure that there could be a volume for it. The Sires of Time, there are other books being made right now. So he's working on volume 2. Obviously, it's going to take him a while because the drawings on this are just so intricate.
Yeah.
And very detailed. So I don't know when it'll come out, but if I like it, then that's something to look forward to, and I can go to my local comic book store and say, hey, can you get this for me?
Hopefully. Yes. Hopefully. A lot of these independent publishers, unfortunately, they either do a one-off publishing, and that's all they can do, and a lot of these comic shops won't carry it unless you specifically request it. So that's something that a lot of listeners also have to keep in mind, is if they're out there and they're supporting, let's say, a Kickstarter project or an Indiegogo project, and they think, well, maybe I can just get this one. My comic shop carries it. Not the case. You definitely have to ask for it months ahead of time. As soon as it goes into solicitation. So if you don't get the previews magazine, definitely get that, because that's where you will see stuff, what your comic shop can actually carry. And a lot of these more independent books, unfortunately, you either have to get straight through the website or even better, through the artist himself or herself at a convention where they can do a little signing, a little drawing for you. I think that works out better. I think that experience is something you'll remember more than picking it up from an online shop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I had fun just going and meeting with the authors today. It was fun talking with each and every one of them and stuff. It's definitely an experience.
Overall, Wizard World, I had a great time. It wasn't super busy, and I don't know how it normally is because I don't come to Wizard World Chicago every year. But there was enough moving space. Like, we were able to go to every booth and kind of look around comfortably.
Yeah, I wasn't ever at a booth, and I felt pressured to leave so that other people could view it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there were a couple things I was looking for a couple of listeners out there, for myself as well, and some success, some failures, unfortunately. But that's just a part of conventions. You're not always going to find everything you're you're looking for. But overall, I had a good time. I think we stayed there almost the entire time, the full almost till 7 o'clock. But we just got everything done. We got to visit the gaming room, which was not very full either. So if you wanted to play anything, it was there.
Yes.
They had tournaments. Yeah, they had sci-fi speed dating.
They had sci-fi speed dating. I overheard the girl who was trying to get people to sign up, talking to some guys who were there, and she's like, "Oh no, you can't come tonight. There's too many guys." So she was trying to put them off onto the Saturday.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying I wouldn't try it, depending on the price, but at a different venue. Wizard World is just not the place where I would want to do that because I'm there for Wizard World-y stuff.
Okay.
But if I did take a look, it's at their website, and I learned their website. I haven't looked at it yet, but they're elsewhere. I think they're elsewhere in Chicago.
I've seen them at MegaCon too.
So if they do have just like a random Friday or Saturday night, then I'll give it a try.
I think if you had gone the whole weekend too, maybe you would have taken one of those because then you have plenty of time to
Yeah.
Especially since you're walking around the con and it's like, hey, it's 4 o'clock, let me do this speed dating thing for half an hour, however long it was, and then go back to the convention right after that. So, I mean, this is why they're always at those cons. I'm sure they have a lot of success with that. I don't know about the results themselves, but, it's just another quirky convention thing for some of the bigger ones. The guests were great. No one that we met or got signatures for, but they had the whole cast from Back to the Future there. They had some Doctor Who cast from the DC and Marvel shows. I mean, it's your typical convention. I'd probably compare it to MegaCon. It's pretty good, but it's more separated as far as the signatures they can get and who you can meet. At MegaCon, they had it all in the same hall, so you can kind of see there's Kevin Conroy right off in the distance, and you can it's more accessible. But at Wizard World, and maybe it's because it's at the Rosemont Convention Center,
yes,
that they had to put it in different halls. But for that one, if you wanted to get signatures, you had to go to a specific place, and it wasn't just mixed in with the hall, unfortunately. So that's one of my only complaints, I guess, with the convention, is that by splitting the different halls and crowds, you are essentially splitting the crowds. You're not getting everyone in the same room and kind of getting the same buzz going. There's not going to be as much discovery for that other stuff. If I hadn't looked in that map, I never would have known that there was the gaming room or that second exhibitor hall.
Which, I don't know why they made that choice, because the last time I went to Wizard World, which wasn't last year, it's been a while. The last time I went, they didn't do that. And so I was out just walking around, and we were near the edge of the dealer's hall, and that's where William Shatner was there, and I saw him on stage. Now, I couldn't get into it to really listen because it was jam-packed and there was a whole line to meet him, but I got to see him in the distance. For a moment, we were in the same room. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, and I think that's something that conventions should strive to do, is to try to get sort of everyone in the same page, everyone in the same room, but you can't always do that, and I'm not a convention runner, so what do I know? Maybe there's a reason why they did it that way. I'm sure, obviously there is. But overall, I mean, it was still a good time. It was still a lot of fun. There was a lot to see.
Yes.
There were a ton of Silver Age comics, but a lot of them were super overpriced. So, I mean, that comes with a convention. And, maybe you can try to haggle them a little bit, but you're always going to pay a little bit too much at a convention when it does come to Silver Age and Golden Age comics. Some of the modern stuff is pretty good. I saw a Harley Quinn #0 for $15, and that was a first print. That's pretty awesome. That is a really good price. You can usually find those at comic shops or on eBay for more than that. So that was awesome. There were a couple of gems. Blank covers were $5, which is great. Normally they're $6 to $10, depending on what the book is. So you can still find some great stuff. But yeah, if you're a fan of Wizard World at all, if you've been in Chicago, I would say definitely check it out at the next one.
Yeah.
So you got to hear Mr. Riggs and the stories. Hopefully the listeners out there enjoyed it. Is there anything out there that you want to plug as far as hey, you can find me or follow me here? Or I know you're not too big on social media.
No, I'm not. You can always find me on Facebook. Shout out. I'll say hi.
What would they search?
What would they search? I guess they would search my name, which is Daniel Riggs. No, well, not Daniel. Dan. So just do a search for Dan Riggs. I change my Facebook profile pic fairly frequently, so you're just going to have to try to pay attention. Give me a shout out. and that's fine. Speaking of Facebook, I would like to plug somebody else. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
So I was on Facebook and I saw this random webcomic called JL8. That's JL and the number 8. And what it is, it's by Yale Stewart. And he envisions the Justice League characters from the DC universe as if they were 8 years old. And so, like, the current storyline that he's working on now, Batman takes out Supergirl
on a date. Okay.
to a fancy restaurant, but because they're 8 years old, the fancy restaurant is like this fancy peanut butter and jelly restaurant, which I would enjoy as an adult. I would enjoy that.
You still eat those?
I still eat those, but it's very cool because it really kind of captures the personalities of the Justice League heroes that we've come to know, but it does so with the mind of an 8-year-old. I would have to say, if you're looking for something that's just a little bit more lighthearted than the usual stuff that you're reading now, check it out. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say, is just check it out. I enjoyed it. I didn't realize it was a comic. I thought it was just cartoons that he did, and so I would just look at it every once in a while. When I found out it was an actual comic strip with storylines and stuff, I got so excited that I read the whole thing from issue 1 to present in like one sitting, and it's amazing. I really like it.
Nice. So one more time, they would search JL8 on Facebook.
JL8 on Facebook.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds like the Justice League Unlimited episode where the members were aged down. I think it's called Kid Stuff, but it's all up on Netflix, and it was an amazing episode. So if this comic is anything like that, and they're just giving you more, even better. It sounds great. So once again, listeners, that is JL8. And I do want to once again thank Riggs for coming, Mr. Riggs for coming on the podcast, on the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. Huge thanks. And there's more to explore with Mr. Riggs. We never talked about your love of hot dogs or Lunchables. The diet that you used to have of hot dogs, Sunny D, and Lunchables, Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts.
All of that we will have to touch on. You will be coming to Florida in October, right?
Yes, October. I'll be in there in October. And I'm not sure the dates right now, but I'll be there, and you can look for me there at the many bars. And while I'm there, we're going to do another podcast with another friend of yours who I've met from a couple of times.
Yeah. His name is Alex. We did the Batman v Superman script reading about a year and a half or 2 years ago. And yeah, we'll be doing one with him. He remembers you very fondly. That's who I mainly share the stories with. While we're at work, I'll tell him a Riggs story. And so he's very familiar with the goddamn Mr. Riggs.
With the goddamn Mr. Riggs.
So yeah, we'll do one. We're actually setting up like a game actually for you. It's gonna be awesome.
I am excited now. I gotta tell you,
it's pretty awesome. Like we've been brainstorming some things, and it'll be fun for the listeners as well. Because they'll be able to follow along with Riggs as they follow him. They'll be on your side because they won't know either, and it'll be good. It'll be fun.
It'll be Mr. Riggs unfiltered. This is how he thinks.
Exactly. Like we're gonna explore Mr. Riggs completely, and it's gonna be awesome. So let us know, listeners, what you thought of the episode, and a huge thanks again for the backing on Patreon because it lets us do things like this. And let us know what you thought of Riggs. If you want something more often with Mr. Riggs, let us know on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke or Facebook.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke. You do have Skype, right?
I can get Skype.
You can get Skype. You're eventually going to be online.
I'm currently off of the internet.
But eventually, if listeners do want to hear more of Mr. Riggs, we can have him on Skype and we can record another one of these either before that or after we do the recording in October with Alex. So we'll figure it out, but that's all based on feedback. We're definitely going to do the October recording regardless.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun.
I had a lot of fun. This was amazing.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thanks again. And huge thanks to all the listeners out there. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Mr. Riggs.
We'll see you next week.